Goat. Bulls Hawks, and it didn't go to overtime. It wasn't even a nail biter down the stretch. What gives, man?
I mean, they tried to make it a nail biter, but the Hawks just I don't know, man. The Hawks they're a team that plays a non-serious brand of basketball at times. And the Bulls, to their credit, they take advantage. So, I mean, that was to me like a game where everything went right for the Bulls. Like, I mean, you look at just like the shooting percentages, 57, 44, 90. I mean, ridiculous. 126 offensive rating. That's like, 16 points above their season average. So everything was going well for them. Io was like 8 of 10. He's been really bad. Giddey was 8 of 10. He's been struggling offensively. Even Kobe, who like struggled shooting the ball, got to the free throw line for 6 attempts. Zach was on fire. Vooch was really solid. I mean, everything went right for the Bulls. They had 7 players in double figures. Jalen Smith was awesome off the bench. Dalen Terry continues to play well. So I think that was just like a feel good win. And you can kind of feel the relief and the just the morale in the locker room a little bit higher and better than it has been after those last couple losses where, you're in Milwaukee and they just gave up, 40 points to Giannis and they didn't get a free throw attempt for the entire team in the second half. And it was kind of deflating. This was very different feeling. Just having played a lot better basketball, the things that they want to do ended up working out for them. And I mean, it was a big win. It was their first NBA Cup win. And so that was exciting for them too.
Will, since you wrote the article on Dalen Terry, kind of talk about his game tonight and actually these past few, because it just feels just much more consistent. And he's getting you those 10 points. He's getting you those 4 or 5 assists, those few steals. He's getting you like he's either a +9 or a +10 or whatever. But it just feels much more consistent, and he's contributing at both ends of the floor. Talk about what you're seeing out there with Dalen Terry on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was high on Dalen coming out of the draft. I had him, I think, like number 3 on my board for Bulls players I thought would be available for them. So I've always liked Dalen, but there was a time like last year, maybe the year before, it was just like, is this guy going to make it in the NBA? I mean, the shot was so far away from being productive. He looked out of control. He wasn't really able to get downhill with his dribble. He was frail. He wasn't really finishing through contact. Teams were ignoring him. It just felt like everything was so far away. And this year, things are starting to click for him. We'll start with the defense, where I think he's his most impactful. You see him on opposing point guards. Trae Young, for example, tonight, where he's just attached to him. I mean, he's in his jersey. He's not letting him get the ball. He's not letting him get it back on those handoffs. And he's just staying with him, and he's able to use his length to really bother guys, especially smaller guards. But offensively, he looks a lot better too. I mean, for one, the shot just is leaps and bounds better, more consistent, more repeatable, less of a hitch, more up and down. And I think he's been working really hard on that. Every time I talk to him, he says, credit Peter Patton. And I'm like, well, Dalen, you're the guy putting the work in, so you got to credit yourself too. And he, of course, loves that. But he's just a real competitor. He wants to play well. He wants to do well. He wants to compete, and he wants to contribute. And I feel like with the shot starting to fall, that's opening up those driving lanes where he's able to attack closeouts and make plays with his passing. He knows that when he generates steals, he can get out in transition and make plays or finish for himself. And, in this article, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but he was talking about what he learned from Caruso on those swipe downs and just the timing of it, using his body to like bump guys and then strip them and then get out on the run. And that's how he can kind of make a living. And I think ultimately he really kind of understands what he needs to do to be successful in this league right now. And I think it took him a little bit longer than it maybe should have. Like, I don't think his role was ever that complicated. It was a lot of defense and spotting up, but he just feels so much more comfortable doing all the things that he needs to do in order to be successful. And you see him now gaining a lot of trust. I mean, I don't think he was the first one off the bench today. I believe that was Julian, but he played the most minutes of anybody on the bench, and he's been really solid lately. So, I mean, this is a pretty big development. And obviously he's not, starting, he's not playing major minutes, but I mean, he looks like a basketball player. And that was something that, like I said, I wasn't sure if that was going to work out for him. As much as I like him and enjoy talking with him and all of that, I mean, he's really taken strides, and I think you got to credit his work ethic.
So, Goat, do you think that Vooch is having a all-star season, and why?
Ooh. Okay, so I literally just talked to Vooch about this. It was kind of like off the record, just shooting it. And I was like, Vooch, I mean, are you playing your best basketball ever? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's up there for sure. And so he really is. I mean, he looks so solid and comfortable. He's making his shots, but I think with the pace that they're playing, he's obviously not like a speed demon. Like he's not really one of those super mobile, switchable bigs, but especially in trail, like he's able to attack closeouts. And with the way that he's shooting, bigs are really having to get up to him. And so when their momentum is taking them away from the basket and his is taking him towards it, he can blow by guys. And then he's putting his passing into the game, his decision-making, his finishing. The flip shots are going this year. The three-point shots are going. He's getting to the foul line a little bit more. He's obviously a great rebounder. This is definitely like the best version of Vooch that we have seen here in Chicago. It's kind of the Vooch that I think AK traded for when he made that trade 3 years ago. But it's too bad we didn't see it more when the window of whatever form of contention they were trying to get to when that was open with DeMar and Alex here. But I mean, this is the best version of Vooch that we've seen. And no, it would not surprise me if he's like a coach's choice all-star. I don't think he'll be a starter, but I mean, he's been playing some incredible basketball.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, a monster double-double tonight. I think it's his 8th double-double and 11th double-double in
11th.
16 games, something like that.
17.
Yeah. Goat, Billy maybe dropped a clue before tonight's game that we might see more of Modest Buzelis, and we did, in fact. He played 20 minutes, and Torrey Craig went back to being a DNP after playing very well on Wednesday. What's the deal?
Yeah, I think it's a matchup thing. Basically, Billy didn't explicitly say this, but kind of reading between the lines and based on what he did say, I think he just didn't want to put him in a situation where he was having to guard Giannis all night. That is just a matchup where he's just going to get annihilated. And, I was talking with my friend Bob here, he's a security guard on just entering out the court. And he was saying, like, I don't care if he doesn't, if he gets beat up by Giannis, like that's what we want to see. Like we want to see him get more minutes. And I hear that point and I agree with it. But I also think that the Bulls are just trying to be careful about, who they let him go up against, because one, I think confidence is, I don't think it's much of an issue with Modest. Like, I don't think I'm worried about him losing his confidence, but I don't think that they want to put him in a position where he gets so beat up that he starts getting tentative. But, with this matchup, the Hawks are more of a switchable 4 with Jalen Johnson and Rizaje and DeAndre Hunter, like some smaller, kind of more traditional small forward type 4s. I think that's a perfect matchup for him, and you saw him play well. But the one thing Billy said pregame about Modest is that he's like really starting to understand what questions to ask and like make sure that he's in the right place when he needs to, make sure that he knows the right play call when he comes in the game, make sure that he understands what defense the Bulls are executing on a given play. And I think that goes a long way. Like, I think there was probably a period of time where he felt a little tentative, a little unsure of whether he should ask the question and then maybe put himself in a position where he wasn't sure what was happening. But now I think he's been a little bit more attentive, a little bit more aggressive, and just understanding where he needs to be. And that goes such a long way, right? Like when the game is moving so fast as it is, like you can't be a step behind from like not being up to date on whatever the assignment is. Like he really, I think has gotten to a level where he, understands the pace that things are happening. And even if the game is still moving too fast, he's like adjusting to that a little bit more quickly. And I think that's why he was out there for 20 minutes tonight. I thought he played well. He was a little down on himself and hard on himself, but Zach was saying, and I agree with Zach after the game, like, he made an impact. He was blocking shots. He was getting out in transition. He's long, he's athletic, he's making plays. Like, it's okay if you turn the ball over a couple times. It's okay if you miss some shots, but like he was making a positive impact on both sides. And the Bulls need that.
Well, real quick, Jalen Smith had a really good game off the bench again for the Bulls. It seems like it's not happening every single game, but like there's a game and then they'll skip one, and then there's a game and they'll skip one where he just gets really hot from the three-point line, and that pick and roll or pick and pop that he's running just really works well. What do you attribute that to? And what kind of guard line do you like seeing him play with? Because me personally, I like it when he's out there with Kobe. They just really have some kind of different kind of chemistry than I've seen him have with guys like Josh Giddey. Yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about like who his best lineup pairings are, and maybe I can do some digging on like what the data says behind that. But yeah, I think he just likes to play fast, and he was hitting his shots today. Like that's, I think, what it comes down to. Obviously, he had a couple of nice blocks in there too, but 4 of 5 from the field, all of them were 3-point attempts. So that's what he needs to do. He needs to get those up, and the Bulls obviously made 19 threes tonight out of 43 attempts. So like I said, it was just everything was working. I think that was part of it. But yeah, I think he's been really solid, and I think he's going to have these nights where he puts up some more explosive stat lines, and that's great. And certainly they needed it tonight. But I think it's just about the consistency piece. Like, it's great to go 4 of 5, but if you go 0 of 5 the next night, like, can you get to a point where you're making 2 out of 5 every time? And like that 40% there, I think is something that a coach would take 9 times out of 10 over one really hot night. I mean, unless it's like the play-in or something where you just need everything to go. That consistency piece, I think, is a big one for him.
Goat, we appreciate you. Before we let you go, who's your goon of the night real quick?
One more note, though, I did want to bring up before goon, which is Patrick Williams. I don't know how much you guys have talked about that.
Talked about it in
pregame. I don't know if you went through like all the quotes and stuff, but basically the update is not all that different from what we talked about last time. There's some swelling, some soreness and discomfort in that same area in the foot. He was saying that he got the surgery. There's 2 screws in there, and that sometimes those can be bothersome to people. It's been fine for him. But obviously, like, the inflammation is there, and I think they just want to let that calm down before they start to put a plan together. So again, I think this is going to be a little while. They are basically like not defining a timeline because they can't even do that yet until the inflammation goes down. So I don't know. My concern flag is going up a little bit more with that. But he reiterated and Billy reiterated, like, there's obviously a healthy amount of concern with this, given that it's like soreness associated with the surgery that he just had. But like what Pat was saying was like, this is nowhere close to the pain or discomfort that I was having before the surgery the first time. When there was the edema there, they immobilized it, put it in a boot. And he's saying it's nothing close to that. Like, he couldn't walk or run or do anything. So this is not that, but certainly cause for concern. I'm going to go goon of the night with Josh Giddey. Plus 19, had his best game in quite some time, maybe all season, but he was pushing the ball. And one thing that I really liked about him was, and I've noticed this past couple games, they're not putting the ball in his hands quite as much. They are having Io, especially when they're out there together, run the ball up, especially on makes. Io will get the ball. And I asked Billy about it after the game. He said, Io's our fastest player. He gets it across half court the quickest. We got to put the ball in his hands to get up there so that we can get into our offense. And maybe they hit it ahead to Josh so he can play in the open floor. But this idea of like Josh needing the ball in his hands every single time in order to be productive, I think this was a game where he showed you he doesn't need that. And certainly wasn't a perfect game, but I just liked the way that he kind of adjusted and evolved from some difficult shooting nights where he had the ball, where he wasn't playing defense. Obviously, there's some bad defensive plays in there, but I just like the way that he adjusted tonight, and it shows with a plus 19.
Go, we appreciate you, buddy. Get home safe tonight.
I had a question for the GOAT.
Yeah.
Second game of a back-to-back, you're going to get your workout in the morning, get all swole?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Look at the joy.
Definitely.
Said so confidently.
Drop that medium shirt on and go go prancing through the United Center.
Exactly. I got to keep up with these guys if I have any chance of making the G League one day.
That's right. That's right.
Still waiting for that phone call from Windy City.
Still a chance.
AllCHGO.com is where you can read our guy, Willie Gottlieb's great stuff covering our beloved Bulls.
And shout out to Lucas, too, who I saw at the game, said what's up to me, said he loved what we do, and said say hi to you guys. So shout out to you,
What's up, Lucas?
Appreciate it, man.
I love when Goat just runs into the people.
Yeah.
The people of Bulls Nation at the Madhouse.
You see the quaff and they know.
Yeah, that's right. All right, buddy. Great work. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.